Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about growing tomatoes, specifically my biggest tip or secret to growing tomatoes in the early season. Tomatoes are probably one of the most iconic crops in the garden, in the summer garden, and everybody likes to have awesome fresh tomatoes in the summer that they can harvest themselves and share with people and can and use in a bunch of different ways. And I want you to have that too. So stick around and we will talk about what my biggest tip or my biggest early season secret is to growing really healthy tomato plants. Hey everyone, I'm Justin Gianni. Welcome to my channel where we talk about foraging, harvesting, and growing food and medicine. And right behind me, we have my garden. As you can see in my garden, there's some stuff growing, some peas, some cabbage, some lettuce, some beets, and other brassica plants as well. But I have a few empty beds that are getting ready to be planted out. Those beds are going to probably go to tomatoes. Tomatoes, as I said, those are probably the most iconic plant that we can grow in the garden. I think for most people, at least when they think of the summer garden, they think of a bright red, juicy tomato, or all the other awesome colors that tomatoes can come in as well. And for me, I definitely associate the summertime with growing tomatoes as well. These other crops are awesome, and the heat will get them eventually and they will have to be replaced by other crops. But for now, I don't have tomato plants in the ground, and that goes right along with my tip for you with growing healthy tomato plants in the early season. People always ask me this time of year if my tomato plants are in the ground, and they're often surprised when I tell them no, they're not in the ground yet. It's early April here in Zone 7B, and there's still a possibility that we're going to have some cold enough weather that could damage these plants or even just slow the growth and slow their ability to thrive. I put a lot of effort into these tomato plants, and I want them to be able to give me the most abundant harvest possible this summer. And I really think that you should wait to plant your tomato plants as well. Even if you're buying them at a big box store or at a store and they're already grown for you and they're already started for you. You don't want your hard-earned money going to waste and needing those plants to be replaced at some point down the road. I know that's kind of hard to take, and I know that can be tough. Everybody wants to get their tomato plants in the ground and growing fast, and they think that the sooner they get them in, the faster they're going to grow. But there's plenty of other things to grow in the garden too. I mean, you don't have to just grow tomatoes this time of year. There's plenty of cool weather left and plenty of opportunity to grow some vegetables and some crops that will do really well and will be really rewarding to grow in the process. If you do plan to take my advice and be patient and wait to plant your tomato plants and put them in the ground, I promise you'll be rewarded by doing that. And the best thing to do, honestly, is to go online and look up when your last frost date is for your area. Everybody's got a slightly different frost date. Most of the time you just type in your zip code and it'll tell you when your last frost date is. And what it'll do is it'll come up with a date or a range of dates that you should look at. And this is when I pull out the weather and I look at the weather, the forecast, and I try to look at the next 10 days and try to figure out what is going to be happening in the next 10 days. Is there a cold snap coming? This year is a perfect example. Tonight it's supposed to get down to 37 degrees, which I know is not frost, but at the same time is close enough for me. I don't want my tomato plants in the ground. Frost doesn't just kill tomato plants, but it also can slow the growth of tomato plants. If you are willing to wait and put your tomato plants in the ground once everything's warmed up and keep them warm in other ways, like in a greenhouse or covered, then when you do put them in the ground, they will be able to go off to a running start and they'll be able to grow faster. And quite honestly, they're going to catch up to everybody else's tomato plants that might already be in the ground. My Italian grandfather, or Nonno as we called him, always wanted to have a tomato that he could pick in early July. By 4th of July, he wanted to make sure he was able to pick a tomato. And I always set that goal for myself too now. I feel like waiting to put tomato plants in the ground a little bit later is still going to give you that opportunity to pick those tomatoes not too late in the season. You're not going to be punished for putting the tomato plants in the ground. Like I said, they will catch up. Anyways, guys, Thank you so much for watching this video. Please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video down below here, and commenting also if you have any thoughts, questions, or concerns, and maybe even share this video with somebody that you know that puts their tomato plants in the ground a little bit too early and is punished by a sad late frost or a sad frost that ends up causing them to have to go replace those plants later on. Like I said, my name is Justin Gianni. Have a great day and look forward to seeing you around.